Available. Welcome to Kristi Lee's DC Dispatch. Besides that breaking news, a big announcement is expected in about an hour from now. We've been getting clues on what that big announcement could be. Charlie Kirk had predicted on X it's about a big Apple investment. He says massive Apple investment, jobs are coming back. Trump delivering for American workers yet again. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt all but confirming that prediction earlier. So another $100 billion investment in American manufacturing by Apple, bringing Apple's total investment in the U.S. to $600 billion. Now, there was also talk that Trump, and he still may, also address an additional 25% tariff on India in response to its continued purchase of Russian oil. He just signed an executive order imposing that additional tariff. So we still have trade deals and trade wars going on here. We're also expecting another executive order this week. Now, we figured this announcement wouldn't have to do with that because we haven't heard of this executive order being signed. What I'm talking about is an EO that could fine banks for dropping conservative customers over their political views. Fox Business reporting this move targets major banks like JP Morgan and Bank of America, which Trump claims have discriminated against him and others. He said he was rejected by both banks as a customer, JP Morgan giving him only 20 days to move his money. So he's like, oh, okay, I'll go and move my billions to Bank of America. And then Bank of America denied him service. The order would push regulators to probe violations and slap penalties on these discriminatory practices based on your political point of view. Coming up, learn about the dark money that's still polluting our great nation. Lindell TV's Allison Steinberg is joining me in a moment to cover the possible federalization of D.C. We have our Wednesday weekly wins to celebrate, and I'll be giving you the latest in the Texas redistricting drama. But first, I'm going to ask you to do some shopping while you watch. Watch and shop at the same time. There's always deals happening at MyPillow.com. Go to MyPillow.com, really pushing the Percale sheets right now. You can get free shipping, entire free shipping on your order. And these kind of sheets are really good for hot days. I think I heard or saw it's 120 degrees in Arizona. Like, what do you cover yourself with when it's that hot? Well, Percale sheets are the ticket. Those are the ones that can keep you cool. And you can get those at MyPillow.com. Use promo code KL to support the show. And we appreciate your continued support. Again, MyPillow.com, promo code KL. Do your shopping there. All right. So, remember Big Balls from the Doge team? Turns out he really does have big balls, being lauded as a real hero in D.C. as he came to the rescue in a violent situation. And now President Trump is threatening a federal takeover of Washington, D.C., saying crime is totally out of control after this Doge member was brutally attacked in an attempted carjacking. Independent Sentinel reports Trump blasted local laws demanding minors as young as 14 be prosecuted as adults, while D.C. officials insist violent crime is down 26% this year. For some extra insight on that and see how she feels, Allison, well, she's live in D.C. with the latest on this major shakeup. Allison, curious, do you feel safe there in D.C. and do you feel like crime is down 26%?
No, Kristi, I absolutely do not. I think that is a fake, made-up number, as we know Democrats are notorious for doing. It's not safe here in D.C. In fact, it's actually the only reason I feel safe here on the street corners because I know Secret Service is right over here behind me in the White House. But, it's very scary here. Every day I leave my house, I actually fear for my life because there is so much insanity going on the streets of D.C. here, and it's no joke. I totally sympathize with anyone who's had to endure any of this insanity that is running rampant here in this city. Let's not forget that just back in June, what was it, a 21-year-old staffer for Congress was brutally caught in this crossfire, gunshots, and killed. This is a very common occurrence here in Washington, D.C., and it's very sad that innocent, unsuspecting people who are just going about their days and their lives are shot, killed, murdered, and brutally harassed on these streets. I know it all too well. I actually almost got caught in a situation myself. A couple weeks back, I was leaving dinner with my husband in a very nice area. It's called The Wharf here in DC. It's, upscale restaurants, and it's, should be safe, but it's not. On the way out, mobs of these young people overtook the entire street. I mean, I couldn't even see the street. It was these young kids as far as the eye could see, and they were running around. There was gunshots going off. Thank God there were some cops there that immediately ran to protect my husband and I. But it was absolutely terrifying. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. Just these mobs of these young kids between the ages of like 14 and maybe 17, violent youths running wild in this city. It happens all the time. I see it regularly, and it's very scary stuff.
Yeah, you keep on saying these violent youths, and I think that's the key here in understanding this is because we did just get Jeanine Pirro in as DC prosecutor, but it's actually, I've learned, the Attorney General of DC that is in charge of prosecution of minors, and he just doesn't do it. he says prosecuting and arresting our way out of this isn't the way. We need to give these people resources, and it's like your job is literally a prosecutor. That is literally the way you need to be concerned with. So he's part of the problem. It sounds like Trump knows that too.
Yeah, I think Trump does know that, and that's good. So we hear him talking about this federalization of DC. I think that may be necessary, sadly. I mean, I hate to see, this turn into some sort of surveillance state and all this increased law enforcement. I would like to avoid that if possible, but it doesn't seem like it's an option at this point with all these violent use. And this is really an issue we have to remember that starts in the home. Unfortunately, many of these kids, I think, are growing up without a father figure, broken homes, broken families, and it leads to this chaos that is ensuing on a daily basis here in this city. And yeah, they have to be held accountable and treated as adults, which Trump is now saying. He's saying, like you mentioned, anyone 14 will be, prosecuted as though they were an adult. So, yeah, it's sad that it's going to have to come to this, but what's happening now is not working. I also saw a very interesting article that Tom Fitton posted. If you want to pull that up, he highlights that another major contributing factor to the juvenile crime crisis in D.C. is that the courts rely on this GPS monitoring to police these criminal juveniles. Basically, what this is, it's an ankle monitor, a GPS ankle monitor that's supposed to track them while they're just free in the community, running around at their leisure. And the juveniles refer to this as the box. It's just some common thing that you're inevitably going to get on if you're a youth here in DC. You're going to get on the box at some point in your life. But basically, the problem here is that this is an ankle monitor that the criminal juveniles are responsible for charging so that it actually stays on and active. Christy, do you think a criminal is going to responsibly charge an ankle monitor to keep it working?
It just sounds like a joke. It sounds like you're trying to prep me for it. Like, come on, dude. Like, of course not.
It's so ridiculous. Of course not is the correct answer. So obviously they're not charging these ankle monitors. Therefore, they're completely worthless, just serving as an accessory on the ankle, more or less. And, they can continue to get away with, check out my box, bro. But yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's really sad that this is, what it's come to, that these courts think that this is an acceptable way to handle this problem, and that, the statistics are actually what's the most astounding. I read in this article, 125 to 150 youths a day wear these GPS monitors under DC juvenile court supervision while facing charges. This is in contrast to the mid-2000s where there was an average of 40 a day. So we're now tripling the number that was reported back in the 2000s. It's also estimated that 4 out of 5 youths will at some point wear one of these devices. So that's where we're at currently in DC, and it's very sad. I mean, it doesn't have to be like this, and if perhaps, these kids had better role models or more severe consequences, maybe they would think twice before committing these violent crimes.
Yeah, and going back to the incident that really is drawing attention to this, I mean, that didn't even seem real. Like, what do you mean? Big Balls was a hero? And, this is the guy that got attention when he was identified. You had the leftists losing your mind. Like, how is somebody in government that has access to our personal information called Big Balls? And, they raised a fuss about this. And then here he comes back into the news again as a hero. I believe it was Mike there's been talk, I forget exactly who, but there's been talk about him perhaps getting a Medal of Freedom. I mean, but it's wild that it happened to be Big Balls. He lived up to his name. He was ballsy, stepped into action. Balls is swinging, you could say. There's so many things you can do with this. It's very sad. But yeah, the situation itself is sad. We're glad that no more people were hurt, that he wasn't more hurt. But in light of this situation and in light of it being a recognizable name to some degree, that's why this is getting the attention it deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad it's getting this attention because it is well deserved. I mean, I have an ex-member of Doge living in my apartment complex, my neighbor actually, and he was the first one to tell me about this. I found out about it last night, and he was just telling me, my coworker Big Balls got himself into quite an incident, and we got to talking about how insane the crime is here. But this guy basically, he's from Georgia. He said he came here and he could not believe how frightening it is and how much work needs to be done here, and that this is just such a common occurrence. It's again not the first time this has happened. It's like a very regular occurrence, even in these nicer areas, these little pockets of DC. Like I said, there's regular shootings, regular stabbings, and so it's very sad. Now, initially I wondered if this was a targeted incident because of who he is, because it's the notorious Big Balls. Maybe this was, intentional. Someone was after him. But no, again, it's just these violent mobs of these criminal youths who, just do this for fun. This is a pastime for them. And this is something that, is just a regular everyday occurrence. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that it was Big Balls, but I guess it's also good that it was Big Balls since he stood up and he managed to not die. He protected his girlfriend who was there. So, I mean, I guess that's the best case scenario you could hope for in this very unfortunate situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like this is something, I mean, how serious do you think that Trump is when he talks about federalizing? Because we already federalized. I mean, it was never supposed to be this where they elect someone. I mean, because obviously when Congress decided to shirk their duty and move this away and allow this whole different system and setup to happen, it just basically destined DC to only ever have Democratic leadership because of the constituents that live there are all essentially Democrats. So by shirking their duty, they really doomed DC to become like all the other blue cities that struggle with crime and lack of justice. So how serious do you think he is about I believe, isn't there even some bills in play to try and get this going, to get this happening?
Well, I'm not sure what the current development is as far as like where we are in the process of making this happening, but I am hopeful that President Trump will. I mean, he was speaking about the homeless issue that's run rampant here. He recently signed an executive order pertaining to that. Obviously, unfortunately, a lot of them cause the crime rates to skyrocket, as well as these violent youths. So, I mean, this is a conversation that's being had regularly here by the president. So I'm not sure what the next steps are moving forward other than accountability, and hopefully the president does move forward to make this actually happen. Like you said, the Democrats have avoided their responsibilities here. This is probably all by design. It's probably all their plan, because this is how blue cities are run and operated, just all out lawlessness all the time. So this is truly a result of Democrat policies, and we're witnessing that firsthand. It's very unfortunate that innocent people have to die because of Democrat policies, but hopefully this also serves as a wake-up call to people who still somehow vote Democrat. I mean, you're literally putting your life on the line if you support this. So, I mean, there shouldn't be any other way about it. But President Trump did speak on this. Let's play this quick clip that we have of Trump talking about federalizing D.C. Take a listen.
By the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run.
So if nothing else, I think...
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, Trump is a man of his word. I don't think he likes to talk about things unless he's actually serious about them. I don't think he likes to be wrong. So if he's talking about it now, then I would think that he would follow through and make this happen. So that at the very least, then the Democrats couldn't say, oh, he's all talk and no action. He doesn't deliver. So I think since he is talking about it, we will see it happen. When that will be is, I suppose, still yet to be determined.
Yeah, and let's not shy away of the ramifications of Congress deciding to shirk their duty and manage DC. Because they have had a stranglehold, the Democrats, with their local leadership, we'll say, it really probably played a part in January 6th. And the coordination of pulling off that sham and that setup with the mayor there and the Capitol Police, that really spurred upon these narratives that really set up a lot of the January 6ers that were thrown behind bars. So I just think that it's so far reaching, the fact that we've gotten away from it being truly federalized and really allowed for something like that to happen.
Yeah, we're so far away from how this was intended to run, as you point out, Christy, and the fact that, it's pretty much just mob rule here, and the Democrats are the mob, and they are, they've taken over, and that's just how it is here. And the January 6th example is a perfect reminder of the fact that, they've allowed this to happen, and they will prosecute based on their political preferences. As we know, everything that happened on January 6th was totally illegal and wrong, and that didn't stop them. So it frightens me to think how much further they could take it if this isn't stopped immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Allison, thank you for your update. Stay safe out there, and we'll be coming back to you later on in Lindell TV White House Coverage Live.
Thanks so much, Christy.
Yes. All right, coming up, we are going to go over some good news, because we cannot get so caught up in the hysteria and all of the things that we can be angry about. You can't fall victim to those like social media traps, right? You have to be reminded of the things that are blessings, the things that are happening that are wins, right? And so in that effort, we are doing this new segment called Wednesday Weekly Wins, where we'll review some of the top wins we can all celebrate together. That's coming up. And then after that, we're going to expose the dark money that is still trying to pull the strings going on with the president of the Capital Research Center. That is also coming up. So stick around. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Yes, it is that time again. Each week, we take a moment to celebrate all the good things happening, our weekly win. So let's start with this, a Maha victory. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just pulled the plug on $500 billion in mRNA vaccine research, canceling 22 contracts after a deep dive into the science. Patriot TV reports Kennedy says mRNA vaccines like those for COVID and flu don't work well against respiratory viruses and may even drive viral mutations. So he's shifting funds to safer, broader vaccine platforms. Truly following the science. And we do keep winning on border security. In case you missed it, we hit another milestone. There's been 3 straight months with zero illegals released into the U.S. So another victory Trump can take credit for. And in economic winning, President Trump has secured another historic trade deal with South Korea. And so South Korea will invest $350 billion in the U.S. purchase, $100 billion in LNG and other energy, completely open trade with no tariffs on American goods. And, you know, all of these trade deals, they're going good. The trade deals are working. Take a listen.
And in comparing the numbers from June to May, we did see the trade deficit shrink about 16% down to $60 billion from the month prior. So we've seen those trade numbers continue to go down as they have tried to see the trade field level between multiple other countries. We're still waiting for the official White House reaction to this trade data that came out about 15 minutes ago. We're also looking to see how the markets may react to it. But the trade deficit shrinking from June compared to the month of May, down 16%, down to $60 billion.
And we're also unleashing American energy. President Donald Trump and EPA Chief Lee Zeldin are moving to roll back trillions of dollars in federal mandates by undoing the Obama-era greenhouse gas endangerment finding. And a few major wins in President Trump's settlement with Brown University. Brown will not perform gender reassignment surgeries on minors or prescribe them puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones. Brown will adopt the definitions of male and female from President Trump's executive order defending women from gender ideology extremism for women's sports, programming facilities, and housing. And Brown will take steps to improve the campus climate for Jewish students and combat anti-Semitism. Some of these other universities could follow suit. Another highlight is a win for election security. The Texas Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals just upheld a key part of Texas's 2021 election integrity law, ruling that requiring voter ID numbers on mail-in ballots is legal and necessary to fight fraud. Kyle Becker reports that this unanimous decision reverses a lower court affirming the state's right to ensure secure elections, despite critics claiming it violates civil rights. Anything that can help prevent cheating is somehow violating civil rights, right? So this could change how elections are run, something else to celebrate. And speaking of Texas, the battle of voting borders, it continues. Governor Greg Abbott is now suing to oust State Representative Gene Wu, the House Democratic Caucus chair, claiming he abandoned his office by fleeing the state with over 50 Democrats to block a GOP redistricting plan that could flip 5 House seats. NBC News reports Abbott's lawsuit calls Wu's absence a violation of the state constitution. AG Ken Paxton is saying they're even looking at arrests. Watch this.
We are focused on alternatives that we can implement at the state level. One of those is we can arrest these. So you will see some action that we will attempt to make those arrests. If that doesn't work, we're also going to give them till Friday because that's the next day that the legislature meets to show up on Friday. If they don't, then we are going to file motions to try to remove some of these legislators from office. So that's where we're at now. We'll see what happens. At the very least, I guarantee you this. We can outweight them if these other alternatives don't work, and eventually we'll get the vote that we need.
AG Ken Paxton with some big balls energy. It's the theme, I guess. The New York Times reports California Democrats are pushing to redraw their congressional map to flip 5 Republican House seats, fighting back against Texas's Trump-backed plan to gerrymander 5 Democratic seats. Texas Senator John Cornyn is calling for the FBI to track down Dems who fled the state to block the vote, saying federal resources are necessary to locate the out-of-state Texas legislators who are potentially acting in violation of the law. Now, you might be like, yeah, I agree with that. Way to go, Senator John Cornyn. Might sound good, right? But as A.G. Paxton pointed out, it really shouldn't have anything to do with the FBI. This is your typical talk is cheap without it actually meaning anything. Cornyn is just out to keep his Senate seat that Paxton will be vying for. So, Here are the top 5 reasons not to trust Cornyn and boot him out for the rhino that he is. He led the charge on the 2022 bipartisan gun control bill post-Uvalde, seen as the biggest gun restriction in decades. Does that sound like a Republican? Gun restriction. He refused to challenge the 2020 election certification, dismissing fraud claims as unproven. Okay. Cornyn is backed by donors like Harlan Crow, who admitted to having Trump derangement syndrome and funded Nikki Haley's anti-Trump PAC, raising doubts about Cornyn's loyalty despite his pro-Trump ads, which I'm being flooded with. How about you? Every time I watch a video, it's like Cornyn votes with Trump 99% of the time. Do not be fooled. He has an F grade when it comes to conservative values, conservative voting. He's accused of supporting DEI and police and acknowledging racial bias in law enforcement, which critics claim aligns him with BLM and Democrats over conservative values. And he's accused of supporting amnesty. Back in 2013, he voted for the Gang of Eight immigration bill, which included a path to citizenship for millions of undocumented migrants. Amnesty? Republican? Really, Cornyn? Look, Cornyn has already faced resignation calls from Texas GOP groups like a Northeast County Executive Committee for being too moderate and ignoring constituents. So again, do not be fooled by this guy, no matter how good he may sound in a New York Times article. Now, there are other states that can add seats. Texas is not alone in this venture to add 5 states. There are other states that can add seats potentially. Open source zone posts. States considering redistricting for 2026. And so they have Texas, of course, 5, Florida, 3 to 5 seats, Ohio, 2 seats, Indiana, 1 to 2 seats, Missouri, 1 seat, and California, 5 seats. So that would be the one to watch since they're already threatening that. It's like who cares? You already cheat. so I guess we need to just do what we can with the other states. California is hopeless. All right. Coming up, we have we're going to talk about rooting out dark money, and we have a very special guest, Scott Wolter. So we're going to take another quick break and bring him in after this.
Swollen limbs, joint pain, inflammation, skin aging, and cognitive decline. These are just a few of the awful side effects that you can experience due to poor blood circulation. And popping ibuprofen is not a solution to the pain. It's only temporary relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids. But not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer.
Welcome back to DC Dispatch. You know, we are always wondering about who's funding all this anti-American stuff. Well, our guest, Scott Wolter, he has been digging out and rooting out where this money is coming from. He had testimony. Want to share a little bit of that, and then we will bring him in shortly.
Tax dollars should never go to nonprofits best known for pushing controversial social issues or meddling in politics here and abroad. Yet that is what so many federally funded nonprofits, especially those receiving USAID funding, have done. This improper funding harms both the charitable sector and our politics. It harms innocent American nonprofits abroad by stigmatizing all American nonprofits. I've heard from leaders of those nonprofits who resent their genuine good works being ignored as they become, in local eyes, just one more American NGO fighting for Soros's hard left agenda. Imagine you're a nonprofit leader who struggles to raise private funding as she desperately fights human trafficking in a poor country. Meanwhile, a wealthy Soros-funded network of NGOs in the same country, receiving the American government's imprimatur through USAID funds, is loudly trying to decriminalize the very prostitution that's the engine driving the human trafficking you're trying to stop.
And there you go. That was Scott Walter, just a portion of the testimony there. And he has some shocking revelations for us, I think. He's the president of the Capital Research Center and just wrote an in-depth book on Arabella. Have you ever heard of it? We're going to be discussing it. So welcome in. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be with you.
I have to admit, I had not heard of Arabella until looking at this, and I'm so glad you wrote an entire book on exposing this game of NGO. And I really liked your testimony. Obviously, we couldn't play the whole thing because I would have taken up too big of a chunk of the show. But I really liked your point about NGOs shouldn't as a whole necessarily have a bad name, but they do now because of the exposure of Doge. And we still have a long way to go in rooting out the system, right?
A very long way, yes. Doge has identified lots of things, but in many cases, Congress would have to act on Doge's recommendations.
Okay. And so how confident are you that because we have seen some progress. I mean, in the Big Beautiful Bill, there was at least rooting out some of the public broadcasting fundings that were really just a propaganda arm of the Democrat machine. But what method do you see? Is it going to take rescissions? Like, what method do you see in rooting out more of the waste, the tax funded things that we don't agree with?
Sure. Well, Congress holds the purse strings, really. Now, the administration can and has been doing some work, but and supremely, they've been digging into this in a way that has never been done as thoroughly before by any administration. But in the end, there are definitely things that Congress should be doing, partly because what one administration does on its own, the next administration can undo on its own.
Exactly. So there's got to be ways to codify rooting out all of this. So tell me more about Arabella Advisors and why that's significant in your exposure of dark money.
Sure. The first thing is, let me just give you a sense of the size so people will realize, just because you haven't heard of it does not mean it's not important. Arabella is a network that mainly functions through nonprofits. And those nonprofits in a given election cycle take in billions of dollars a year. In the 22 cycle, they took in $3 billion. So they matter, even if you haven't heard of them. Now, the quick way to explain the way it operates is, think of a pyramid. At the top, you have Arabella Advisors, which is a for-profit consulting company. It creates and operates everything below it in the pyramid. In the middle of the pyramid, you have half a dozen nonprofits of different legal types. And that's where the money comes in, right? A Soros, a Zuckerberg, a Bill Gates Foundation, they're going to write checks to that middle tier of nonprofits. And then at the base of the pyramid, you have what your viewers encounter. And that is hundreds of little fake pop-up groups like Keep Iowans Healthy and Secure Michigan Elections, Floridians for a Fair Shake. They want you to think that those are some neighbors of yours who are upset about something, when in fact, it's just some guy in DC who's created a website and bought some Facebook ads.
Wow. I mean, it's so sinister how this works. But I mean, what you're describing, like a pyramid scheme, sounds like money laundering. I mean, how has it gotten to this point? Like, how is there not already legislation and safeguards about to protect us from basically this money funneling operation?
Well, the charitable sector is one of the glories of America, right? It does incredibly wonderful things. It's been around from the beginning. But the problem is that something that's good can always be still be abused, right? You can abuse a gun, you can abuse a nonprofit for good or ill. And unfortunately, part of the problem is that most Americans just don't know about this vast left-wing network. Arabella is a huge part of it, but by no means all of it. You've probably heard of the Tides Foundation. There's actually half a dozen different Tides entities. They do a lot of bad things, including a lot of the vicious anti-Jewish stuff that happens around the country and on college campuses. The left-wing nonprofit world is just vast and powerful, and it needs a lot more study. I am glad I've been testifying multiple times in the last few months about this to Congress.
Yeah, and again, in your testimony, you talk about how, there are nonprofits that do so much good. And part of the problem is that taxpayer funds can go into these NGOs and make a bad name for the good NGOs. So it almost sounded as if you were saying like the NGOs should never get any taxpayer funding. Is that correct? Just to protect against the problem, or what exactly were you saying there? Uh-oh, did he freeze?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. Okay, yeah, I have you back. Did you hear my question? So are you saying that... Oh, okay. So here's the question again. I got the impression in listening to your testimony that you think because, there can be good NGOs and there can be such evil NGOs that really none of them should be getting any taxpayer funding as one solution. But I could have misunderstood.
Sure. Because it's so liable to abuse and to cronyism, it is, I think, true that any idea of putting government money to a private group, the private group should be considered guilty until proven innocent. I'm very proud. My institution has been around for 4 decades. We've never taken a penny of money. Most conservative places don't, like the Heritage Foundation, for instance, doesn't take a penny of government money. And, it's tempting to try to give money to some good groups, and the bad groups always, when I'm testifying, right, defending money to bad groups, will only talk about the good groups, and they refuse to talk about the bad ones getting the money. So, in the end, smaller government and a stronger civil society of real charitable groups not getting federal funds and not doing bad things, that really is the only long-term solution.
Yeah, I agree. Because here's yet another example of where being on the team, if you will, of integrity has kneecapped us in the war for righteous causes. We see this all the time, even when it comes to Trump's base, like being like, please, you need to arrest these people. It seems like because in the past, the conservative side has tried to be the bigger person, if you will, or rise above. It just ends up hurting us in the long run. Trump admits himself, like he used restraint when it came to going after Hillary Clinton and her email scandal, but they certainly didn't show any restraint when they went after President Trump, even concocting crimes to get a mugshot for. And so this seems to be another example of, although it's certainly a matter of integrity and reputable that places like the Heritage Foundation and Capital Research Center have resisted taking government funds, it's kind of left us behind and kneecapped us in this fight, right?
Well, you're right. Yes, you do often pay a price for being honorable. But the thing is, there just needs to be a lot less government funding, period. That's real reform. And gimmicky things that are supposedly going to keep bad things from happening, well, the gimmicks almost never work. At least they don't work for very long.
So why did you feel inspired to focus on Arabella for your book? And why is it important for people to really learn and understand that in particular?
Well, as I said, the left has multiple different networks of funding, but Arabella is actually the largest and the least well known. So I just thought it was critical that people have a much better understanding of this. As I said, people typically have heard at least vaguely of the Tides Foundation, which was sort of in this business earlier and is not small, but it's not as big as Arabella, and it precisely because the mainstream media refuses to cover things like this. It's necessary for us alternative folks to get the word out.
I love, if you can bring up that book again, I love the font here and the color choice in writing Arabella with the faces of George Soros and Zuckerberg and Bill Gates there, because it's written in a font and in a color that makes me think of aliens. And maybe that wasn't the goal, but it really pops out at you as like, yes, these are the demons that we need to learn more about. But man, it always comes back to these guys, doesn't it? Bill Gates, George Soros, Zuckerberg. Is there any other backers that can be revealed or that you've discovered that maybe don't get as much coverage?
The one that I wanted to have on the cover, but we decided, well, nobody will recognize him. One of the most important funders for Arabella's network is Hans-Jörg Wyss. He is a Swiss foreign national. He has no green card, no American citizenship, and therefore should have nothing to do with our politics. But unfortunately, he's given over $260 million into the Arabella networks and another $250 million to other left-wing nonprofits. And
how successful have these groups like Arabella and AFL-CIO and other NGOs, how successful have they been at when they're exposed using lawfare to continue to protect themselves?
Well, we're in the middle of figuring that out, right? Because so many of them are now having their money cut, and yet they are suing because Doge or some other part of the government has been trying to cut their money off. And we haven't seen many of those lawsuits in their final form yet, right? The final settlements of those lawsuits.
So that will be really telling. Well, I think this is a very important topic. We should understand how the war is being won in some cases. And it's going to really start with having a good understanding at some of the worst offenders, like the Hans that, not many of us are aware of, or Arabella isn't exactly a household name. So where can we pick up the book and make sure we spread the word?
Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get books should be able to order it for you. And the paperback edition just came out a week or so ago, which has a lot more updated information.
Oh, excellent. So constantly updating as well. Scott Wolter, thank you so much for your work on this. Thank you for being honorable and having integrity, even though it's very frustrating sometimes when it comes to these topics. But we do appreciate your diligence on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Well, we are going to dive into updates on what has been taking over the headlines. You know it, I know it. It's been more on Russiagate and Epstein. A lot of more on Epstein has been coming out. The latest that has come out is basically confirmation for what many of us have been thinking could be the only possible explanation. So much is hidden and so much is shadowy and so much hasn't been able to be revealed. And that's that Jeffrey Epstein was a secret FBI informant. We knew it was like some kind of intelligence, right? That he was had to have been in some kind of intelligence, right? Well, according to RadarOnline.com, they exclusively obtained a leaked FBI document with this confirmation before his infamous 2007 plea deal, providing intel to providing intel to dodge federal charges. The 2008 internal file uncovered through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit shows he was more than just protected, that he was in fact a puppet, informant, and spy for the FBI, according to an intelligence source. This is fueling suspicions his lenient deal, orchestrated by then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, was tied to his intel value, not just elite connections. And that also explains why it's so hard to trust the main narratives, even from those that we consider friendly, right? Like, are there things they can't tell us because it's a national security issue? Is it because he was working for too many as an informant? And so here's just another piece of evidence that seems to give some credence to that theory. Meanwhile, the Daily Mail is reporting Attorney General Pam Bondi is weighing whether to release a secret 9-hour audio of Ghislaine Maxwell's DOJ interview, where she said she never did see Donald Trump do anything concerning with Epstein. Maxwell is serving 20 years for her role in Epstein's crimes, spoke with Deputy AG Todd Blanche last month, and now there's pressure to make the recording public. With Maxwell's recent prison transfer and talk of a possible pardon, this could definitely stir up a firestorm. Now, we always need to know what our enemies are going to say. And the obvious thing that an enemy would say right now is like, well, of course she's going to say that she never saw Donald Trump do anything questionable. I mean, this is the guy that she needs a pardon from, right? And so we need to understand that obviously that's a fair question to raise. Why would you want to say anything bad? But at the same time, there is still the truth on her side of if there was ever anything damaging, then certainly if they were creating crimes, certainly we would have known about that long before now. So it'll be interesting, and it's going to be very difficult for, I think, the Trump administration to know how to handle this. I mean, if she gives valuable information and she's pardoned, then of course, yes, that's going to raise some eyebrows. Is it credible information? So this is a mess. This has become a mess that I think we can tie directly back to AG Pam Bondi for overpromising and under delivering in the beginning. And so now we have to deal with the continued fallout and firestorm of this mess. But interesting to see what will come out of that. I do think it's best that they just release it all, release the audio so there's no question on if there were leading questions or if there were deals to strike. Just release it all. Just finally do what you say you're going to do, release it all. Now, CNBC is reporting the media mogul for Fox News, Murdoch, of course, that is now 94, by the way, has struck a deal to delay his deposition over the Wall Street Journal story claiming Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein a bawdy birthday letter in 2003. The deal is Murdoch will provide Trump regular health updates to avoid testifying until a judge rules on whether or not this case will be dismissed, with Trump denying the letter's existence and, of course, calling it fake and, of course, suing the Wall Street Journal for inventing such a story. And then here's another thing related to Epstein. Realtor.com reports that sprawling Blue Heron farm where Barack and Michelle Obama vacationed from 2009 to 2011, well, that just sold there in Martha's Vineyard for $37 million to, get this, billionaire Les Wexner, founder of Victoria's Secret. The 30-acre estate with a 7,000 square foot main house, private beach, and tons of upgrades was bought by Wexner's family trust, but the Obamas still own their $11.75 million vineyard home from 2019. So these same characters are always intermingled. Isn't that always fascinating? Like, what? This Epstein guy, an associate, has now bought the Obama's home. So not looking good there. And then the Post Millennial is reporting that Sean Diddy Combs' legal team has officially asked President Trump for a pardon after his conviction on 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, facing up to 20 years in prison. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland confirmed to CNN that they have reached out asking for this pardon. And I'm here to say, Trump, please don't do it. Please do not pardon this guy. I mean, Trump, you are under fire enough over Epstein, and supposedly they're trying to create this narrative. Oh, it's your fault that Epstein wasn't prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It's your fault. You're covering for Epstein. And so if you add a pardon of Diddy, who's been accused of trafficking and this predator type behavior, it just adds fuel to the fire. So please don't. We all know that he is a compassionate person. And so may be tempted to do that, but I hope and pray he does not do that. If he wants to pardon anyone, he should pardon someone like George Santos, who is been sent to prison for 7 years for far less than most of the criminals in Congress are guilty of. So put your pardon energy over there and do not respond to Diddy, please. Now, on to Russiagate. We did get a little bit of an update on potential action. We all want to see actual action happening here, actual arrests. And so here's an update on perhaps at least John Brennan being the first to go with felony conspiracy charges. Watch.
Well, we have particular vulnerability, do we not, for John Brennan, who testified before Congress. The allegations come from, well-placed individuals that he could have committed perjury, along with others who testified before Congress. Do you see that as one of the main charges that could come out of this grand jury?
That's one of the charges, is perjury. Another charge that I think is most likely is a conspiracy charge, maybe conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. And remember, when you have an ongoing conspiracy, when you are covering up that conspiracy, the statute of limitations does not begin to start tolling. And so this is an ongoing criminal conspiracy. The people who are perpetuating this conspiracy are still covering it up. And so, again, I would say to these lawfare Democrats, lawyer up, because justice is definitely coming.
Yeah, weaponizing the intel community against a candidate or an incoming president. We've never seen anything like that before in American history, if that's what the facts end up showing.
Either way, I mean, start stacking up the charges. And you can begin, he mentions perjury there. You can begin with perjury. I mean, how many people have perjured themselves in this case alone, let alone in others? We haven't talked about Chris Wray for a while. We know that he's perjured himself on multiple occasions. So start stacking up those charges and get this figured out. If they do not get this figured out, if they do not start and the American people do not see actual action on this, this is truly going to threaten the future of MAGA, let alone the Republican Party, let alone protecting against the second state of a man being the first worse than the first, right? That is what's at stake here, is if the Democrats get back in control, there will be no hope. You think the first time was bad? It's going to be much worse if they get back in control. There will be no safeguards. There will be no mercy. So it's really important that until some of these things are worked out, that there is accountability, so we can set a new precedent moving forward. Fool around and find out. That should go for both sides, but let's start prosecuting for actual criminal offenses instead of having to make them up. I mean, if they were able to get Trump on these trumped up real estate charges, certainly Adam Schiff, who has been referred for criminal charges for basically lying about his permanent residence in order to get a discounted rate. He's being investigated for mortgage fraud. Like, take it all the way. I mean, this is an actual real case as opposed to a made-up situation. All right, I want to take a quick break, and then we'll wrap things up and let you know what's coming up in Lindell TV White House coverage. So let's take a quick commercial break, and I'll be right back.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Welcome back to DC Dispatch. We've been following a case that happened out of the Army situation. Let me look that up. I just lost it. This is live TV, folks. I just lost the article. Okay, so this is the lockdown that happened at Fort Stewart, and it looks like there's no more new updates. But again, sad situation there. 5 soldiers shot, and a gunman has been taken into custody, but it looks like we still do not have a name or a motive, but just part of the base remains on a lockdown. So we'll continue to watch that and bring you any updates as they come in. As we wrap up DC Dispatch today, let's celebrate another win, because it is Winning Wednesday, right? So there was a big win for Elon Musk and X in California. Politico is reporting that a federal judge just struck down one of the nation's strictest anti-deepfake laws, which aimed to curb AI-generated election content, ruling it clashes with Section 230 protections for online platforms. The law, sparked by Musk sharing a fake Kamala Harris video, was challenged by X, and Judge John Mendez also plans to overturn a second law requiring labels on altered campaign ads for violating free speech. Huge blow to California's efforts to police digital content. So always want to keep an eye on the status of free speech. We know our colleagues will say in the UK, Europe, and largely Australia they have no concept of free speech. They can define hate speech as anything they want to. We're seeing it dive into levels where groups of people can be arrested for raping a woman, and if you write an angry post about that, like, oh, yeah, I can't believe this group did that, particularly if it's illegal immigrants or a protected class, then you can be the one thrown in jail. And so we don't want to see America go that way. We want to always be cognizant of protecting our free speech, even speech that makes people uncomfortable. That's the whole point of free speech, right? So happy to see that even in California, Elon Musk is still defending free speech and having a win. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Quick note before I go, just want to remind you that Mike Lindell needs all the support he can get. We thank you for the prayers. They are working for Mr. Lindell. We've seen so much of God's favor on him and this network. So continue to pray for Mike. And if you're able, make a donation to his defense. And you can do that at givesendgo.com/Lindell. That's givesendgo.com/Lindell. I want to encourage you to still do that. He's still fighting for election security and still fighting for free speech. Speaking of free speech, and allowing us here to bring the truth to you out of DC, Lindell TV White House coverage. With that, that's it for DC Dispatch. Continue to keep it right here. So much in store to keep you updated on. Thanks for watching.